Welcome to the NHL Wraparound Podcast featuring Neil Smith, President General Manager of the 1994 Stanley Cup champion New York Rangers, and longtime ESPN NHL veteran Vic Morin. Together, they share no-nonsense opinions on news and issues around the National Hockey League. Whether you're a casual or diehard fan, each episode of NHL Wraparound will leave you more informed. Now, here's your hosts, Neil and Vic.
Season's greetings and welcome to NHL Wraparound. Vic Morin, Neil Smith, and whether you have just finished celebrating Hanukkah, will be celebrating Christmas or Kwanzaa, or for those of you airing your annual grievances and are Seinfeld fans celebrating Festivus, all the best to you this holiday season, and Merry Christmas to you, my friend.
Yes, thank you very much. Happy holidays, and here we go. Christmas 2025 or holidays 2025 or Hanukkah 2025 or Kwanzaa 2025, whatever it is, it's the end of 2025.
It is, but it's also a time for giving presents. And what better gift have hockey fans received over so many decades than getting to look at a great picture, great emotion, just great events that have been taken through the lens of Bruce Bennett.
Yeah, he has taken some amazing images, and you wonder if Bruce Bennett was never there, what would we see for pictures now? We wouldn't have some of these iconic snapshots that we have that are frozen moments in time and that we reflect back on and say, yeah, I was there, or I watched that, or I saw that. And he's an amazing guy, really. When you think of the passion that he's put into photography for these decades, it's amazing.
He will be our final guest on Wraparound in 2025 and will be joining us shortly. But first, 3 things you need to pay attention to. And is this upside down world? What is going on with the Detroit Red Wings?
I know. And you know what? It wasn't that long ago that people were just criticizing Steve Yzerman and the Yzer plan, and that getting Gibson wasn't good enough, and that the team wasn't good enough, and so on and so forth. You know what? They're proving those people wrong because they're first in the Atlantic.
8-2 in their last 10, a 4-3 win in overtime against the Dallas Stars on Tuesday. Dylan Larkin, the game-tying goal with 4:03 left, and the overtime winner. And I think this is a guy that so many people want to see get in the playoffs. He's the captain of the team, hasn't been to the postseason since his rookie year, and this is a great story coming out of Detroit. And by the way, what about John Gibson also? 8-game winning streak.
Yeah, I mean, for all those naysayers as well. But Larkin, the local guy, I remember when they signed him. He is the last real Red Wing to play in the playoffs, meaning there's some that have played in the playoffs for other teams that are now Red Wings, but he is the last remaining Red Wing that played in the playoffs so many years ago and wants badly to get back there. And you know what? If they can keep this up, they will be getting back there.
It's been a 9-year drought, but if seeing the Red Wings atop the Atlantic Division standings isn't enough, what is happening in Buffalo?
7 straight. I mean, we're used to hearing about something straight, and it's usually 14 straight because it's 14 years since they've been in the playoffs. But now 7 straight wins. Who would have thunk it? It can't all be because they changed the GM.
Why not?
It's absolutely got nothing to do with that, I can assure you.
Well, in Josh Norris's return to Ottawa, it's a 3-2 OT win. Bowen Byram, 2 goals and an assist, and that included the overtime winner. But here's where it gets a little bit wonky because they've won 7 straight. They're still in 7th in the wild card, but just 3 points out of wild card 1. But as you have said so often, both on and off camera, that after every big winning or losing streak, there's a streak that goes in the other direction. So they're expending a lot of energy here to get close to a playoff spot. But the question that we're going to see after the break is how sustainable this is.
Yeah, and you know what though? At least they've proven to themselves that they can go on a run, and that's the big thing. Even if they go on even if they go on a losing streak after this, they've proven to people that it is possible. Nobody thought it was possible for the Sabres to win 7 straight, and now they've done that. That's an accomplishment for them. That's something to look back on and say, we're not out of this. We can do it. We did it before and we'll do it again. So Lindy Ruff and his group have gotten some well-earned confidence, I believe, out of this.
That fan base has suffered for so long, them along with the Buffalo Bills. So it would be nice to see them stick around in this race and not fall out of it after we get to the new year.
Absolutely. Well, we'll all be cheering for the Buffalo Sabres.
Remember when we buried the Nashville Predators earlier in the season, had a terrible season last year, off to a very rough start this year? Do you realize that they are 10-4 in their last 14 games?
It's, you know what? This is the teams we're running through. Detroit, Buffalo, now Nashville. I mean, goodness gracious. The next thing I know, you're going to say Chicago's won 10 in a row. But
that ain't
no,
happening
the Nashville
today.
Predators, no, that ain't happening. Nashville Predators now at 500 seemed unthinkable only a couple of weeks ago. Still, when you see the Predators are going to play, tomorrow night, the next night, whenever you see they're going to play, you always assume they're going to lose because that's what they've been doing for the last 2 years. But now, as you said, 10-4 in their last 14, including the overtime winning game 3-2 in Minnesota. And to beat the Wild is not an easy thing by any stretch.
Steven Stamkos, much improved in terms of production. He scores the overtime winner, his third straight game-winning goal. It's the 597th of his career. The Predators are wild card 5 right now, 3 points from wild card 1.
Yeah, and this is the way the NHL is right now. I mean, everybody's sort of clumped together, but these teams that we're talking about are making it tough on everybody else.
I think it's also pretty cool that all 3 of the teams that we just mentioned, the Red Wings, Sabres, and Predators, all won their games in overtime heading into the break.
Yeah. Well, the only thing uncool about it is that's another 3-point game. So those are all 3-point games, which keeps everybody clustered together because every night everybody's getting a point.
But don't we kind of want that when we get into March, that we've got so many permutations to look through, and that let's say 25 or 27 teams actually have a legitimate shot when we turn the calendar to April?
Yeah, well, that's what we want to do, the facade. Like Chico Resch said, there's a facade that they've all got a chance. They don't really have a chance. Not all of them. We know the ones that have a chance, but just because there's so many points out, yeah, they're going to give their fans the idea that they're still in it when they're really not.
Well, stay tuned. A lot of hockey left to be played. So remember when we were young and we used to put our hands out when we agreed or something went well for us? We said, "Gimme 5."
I still say that to the dogs, but I say, "Gimme 4."
There you go. Well, how about 3 teams putting up 5-goal periods on Tuesday evening? And I'm going to start off with the Carolina Hurricanes giving up 5 goals, because you remember over the weekend, Neil, that on Friday and Saturday, they lost multiple goal leads to the Panthers and then the Lightning on consecutive nights. They had a 2-0 lead going to the third period in their game against the Panthers on Tuesday. Blew up.
And if anybody can do that to you, it's the Panthers, because they have so much confidence in themselves and in their teammates. Odd, though, for the Hurricanes. They're such a good team in Raleigh when they play at home. And that's a bit of a smackdown for the Carolina Hurricanes.
They may have a stigma against one or both of those Florida teams if they have to see them in the playoffs. But you know who was in goal last night for Carolina?
Freddie Anderson.
Yep. Hadn't played since earlier in the month. Gets his shot back in there. And it almost looked like the third period against the Rangers 2 years ago in that clinching game in the Eastern Conference semis. So, here's something that their past keeps coming back to bite them in different ways.
Yeah, well, they're going to have to find the formula, but they don't have Seth Jarvis. They're missing a couple of other guys. So when they get Seth Jarvis is such a big part of that team. And who knows, maybe they would have been able to hang on if he was in the lineup. I didn't get to see the game, of course, because I was away, but that's not a good one heading into the break. But I have all the confidence in the world in Rod Brindamore as a coach, and I'm sure he'll get things ironed out.
I will just tell you, watching that game, that when Mikkola scored that first goal to make it 2-1, you could almost see the body language suggesting, here we go again.
Wow. Well, as I said, Rod Brindamore is going to have to figure this one out then and get them out of that.
Talk about bizarro world. The New York Rangers, who have had trouble scoring all season long, down 3-2, going into the third period in Washington, and throw up a 5 spot to win 7-3. And this is their 14th win on the road this season, which is more than anybody else in the NHL.
And they've had the most road wins in the NHL for a long time, almost since the season started.
Yeah.
But it's interesting now. Washington, losers of 3 straight, 2 to Detroit, now 1 to New York Rangers. And surprising, especially at Capital One building in Washington. They usually are pretty strong in there. And for them to blow a third period like that with Logan Thompson in net, who's their number one.
Yeah. I mean, they did play that game without Tom Wilson, who was ill, and Rasmus Sandin, who had an upper body injury, but still against a team like New York that has had so much trouble scoring this year. They've not gotten a lot of support offense. And on this night, at least, it all came together for them, at least for the final 20 minutes.
And you wonder, will this give the Rangers some impetus to go on and do better now? I mean, will they believe in themselves a bit more? Because it seems as soon as they get back to the Garden, they don't have any belief in themselves at all.
Maybe they will start to wear their white jerseys at MSG and see if they get the same kind of fortune they do at home as they do on the road.
Yeah, or they can pretend they're the 1994 team at home because we wore white.
No, you would like that.
Yeah.
The last team that potted 5 in a period last night, the Vegas Golden Knights. They throw up a handful in the opening period in a 7-2 win against San Jose. I think San Jose is coming back to earth a little bit. But what I found interesting about the stats in this game is that 13 players made the score sheet in the first 20 minutes for the Golden Knights, and all 18 players in their lineup were pluses after the first period. It didn't end that way, but just to see that on the score sheet was something.
Yeah, that really would be something. And it's, I didn't get to see that game. I was at UBS Arena, but quite a score.
What about the 3 teams we just mentioned? 5 goals in a period. Pretty remarkable.
It is. It's a lot of scoring, and Christmas came early for these teams.
Now we're going to go to the other side of the coin. What is going on with the Kings at Crypto.com Arena?
Well, they can't score. The Kings absolutely cannot score. I don't think they can score on the road as well, but certainly at their own home building, which used to be called the Staples Center, they just can't get it done. And so you got the Kings and the Rangers are very similar. Neither one can score or win in their own building.
They're 4-8-4 at home. They lost 3-2 to Seattle. Their 4 home wins, tied for fewest in the NHL, along with Vancouver. They have consecutive losses on Monday and Tuesday in their own barn after losing to Columbus on Monday. They've only scored 91 goals this season, which is the second fewest in the league behind the Kraken. And you look at their offense, and Adrian Kempe and Kevin Fiala lead the team with 13 goals apiece. That's very low for a leader on a team. A couple of players that they were looking to step up this year and produce more offense, Alex Laferriere and Quentin Byfield. Only 7 and 4 goals respectively. And you look at this club, Neil, they're second in the NHL in goals against average. So this just underscores that, you get one more goal a game, you're going to be right up there at the top of the league standings. And instead, they're struggling just to hang on to a playoff spot.
And this has to really scare the Kings and Kenny Holland and Luc Robitaille and Jim Hiller and that, because Seattle played the night before against Anaheim.
Yeah.
And now it's only it's not that far from Orange County to wherever they stay, downtown LA. Yeah. And LA gets to stay home. But you know what? You lose to Columbus, you should be really pissed off and ready to play against lowly Seattle and be ready to beat them. And they couldn't get it done. And you if you're a fan of the Kings, you're watching this and you're thinking, now Kopitar's retiring at the end of the year. Still close to one of their best players on the team, and he's going to retire at the end of the year. And the up-and-comers, as you mentioned, Laferriere and Byfield, aren't getting it done. So the future does not look bright on this date for the Kings.
They're also a club that can't outscore their mistakes, which is obvious by the totals that they're putting up this year. And anybody that watched that game, the goal that made it 2-0, which was scored by Freddie Gaudreau, was absolutely terrible. Given up by Phoenix Copley. It was a little floater that he just whiffed on. And you cannot allow those type of goals to go in when you don't have the offense to overcome it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. If you got to be perfect, if you've got no, GF, goals for, you got to make sure you don't have any GA, which is goals against. So it's Kings got a lot of work on their hands.
Yes, they do. And that will wrap up 3 things you need to pay attention to. Now let's welcome in our special guest, legendary photographer, Bruce Bennett.
Well, it is an absolute pleasure to bring on an old friend of mine. When I say old, I mean old. We are old. Friend of mine, a fantastic photographer, and finally getting recognized for the great work that he's done over many decades. And I think Bruce and I go back to 1980. Bruce, thanks for coming on and being with Vic and me on NHL Wraparound.
Super happy to be here. I love the podcast. So glad you guys invited me on.
Well, Bruce, you've been getting a lot of notoriety, as you should have, over the last little while, Hall of Fames and all these kind of good things, which is all well-deserved. You've been asked so many stupid questions, I'm sure, in your interviews and in your life. How many pictures have you taken, do you think, or whatever the stupidity is. But is there questions that you have in your mind going like, why doesn't anybody ever ask me this? This is what they should be asking me. Is there anything that you could say you haven't been asked, but you should have been?
I guess the big question is, why are you still friends with Neil Smith? That's usually what people come up to me with. Great question. I wish I had a great answer for it. You're right, though. The questions are always the same. What are your top 10 photos? What are your top 25 photos? How did you get started? Sorry, I don't have any. I don't have any witty answer to that. I'll think about it throughout the podcast. I might come back to you with one.
Well, you just said, how did you get started? What was the evolution of why you went down that path into photography? There had to be a point, like there was for all of us, where our careers sprung from something that happened in college, something that happened in high school. What was yours?
Sure. On the hockey side, I was a fan for many years before I first picked up a camera when I was 17-ish. But hockey fan, played hockey, street hockey and roller hockey, loved the sport, watched it on TV. And the photography was mostly self-taught, but I always had the interest. Starting as a young kid, my father was good at documenting not only his days in World War II, but all the family events afterwards. And he would build these beautiful journals of his photography and essays that he would write. And he was a documentarian, really amateur documentarian. And so I found that my calling, let's say, was to document the sport of hockey in the same way that my father had documented all the years of his life.
Bruce, you have said in some of the things that I have read that the best photos are the ones that document the contrasts and emotions. And of course, one of the most memorable ones was after Bobby Nystrom scored the cup-winning goal for the Islanders in 1980. And you see the jubilation of Nystrom, Lauren Henning coming over to congratulate him, and then the dejection of Bob Daly and the late Mel Brisbane. But are there 2 or 3 other photos that you can think of offhand that truly are representative of your philosophy of taking photos and capturing that magic moment?
Yeah. It's that is, I have said that it's celebration and dejection in the same photo for any kind of sport. That's really usually a winner. One of the classic examples, I think, was Henrik Lundqvist. Just his body language. You could tell what he was thinking. You could tell his emotions. He just by the way his body would kind of hang when he was dejected. And the shot that I'm thinking of is from the rafters in Los Angeles when the Kings scored and beat the Rangers. Don't ask me what year that was, because that's a big jumble. I'm sure you guys will figure that out.
2014.
Thank you. And it was shot, remote camera. I was on the ice or getting ready to go out onto the ice for a cup celebration. And he's just slumped in the crease, dejected. And in the frame, you see the Los Angeles Kings celebrating their cup victory. Super happy. And it was, I think, a sequence of 30 or 35 frames. I had so many to choose from. Every iteration of his body going through the dejection phase. Sorry, Henrik, but it was a winner. It was a winning shot in many ways.
Any others?
Zach Parise scoring I think it was Zach Parise scoring an Olympic goal, but a shot from the net cam. And the net cam, the camera in the bottom of the net, which we also trigger remotely. Otherwise, we'd get seriously hurt, of course. That's that. It's usually, I tell photographers, you look for the frame in the frame or the picture inside the frame. So it's not always the wide shot with the bars, but this one was a super wide shot. You see the bars, you see the goalie missing, and you see Parise coming in and scoring and celebrating. That was the other one I could think of for that. That says the celebration and dejection in the same frame.
Now that you've kind of walked us through saying that there were remote cameras and obviously numerous shots that are taken from different places during the course of a game, can you share with our listeners kind of what a typical setup day is for you? When do you arrive? How many cameras? Where do you set up? And then ultimately, where do you shoot a game from? Sure. Typical for me is 2 to 3 hours before game time. Get to the arena and I rush around like an idiot. I set up, my stool, my little roll. I'm thinking UBS in my head where the Islanders play because I do most of the games there. So I set up a little rolling stool. I make sure the strobes are on in the rafters. Those are big flash units that are synced to my camera. Set up the computer and then the remote cameras. So typically there's a camera in the net at the far end of the ice for me and one in the rafters directly above shooting down. And both are triggered by radio frequency with a little push button that I've got from my seat at 200 feet away at the other end of the ice. And then typically what I do is I stand in the corner of the rink and just kind of take it all in. And I said some of this in the induction speech at the U.S. Hall of Fame a couple of weeks ago.
you take it all in a quiet house, and you can start thinking about what stories are going to be told that night, and not just about the wins and losses. But, records that could be broken that night. I've already done my homework early in the morning, so I know which players are looking for their first goal, first assist. Maybe it's their first game, goaltender's first game, 100th game, 500th game, 1,000th game, or a certain goal that's going to get them over some other record. And I just kind of mellow out, maybe a little meditation, just to kind of clear the thoughts out of my head. And then once you sit down, everything else is just noise. You block out the fans. Sometimes I'll have earbuds in with just white noise. Sometimes I've just got a podcast in the background that just blacks out the fans, and it's not even something that I'm really listening to, but it's the monotonous voice. Sometimes it's NHL wraparound.
It might be Neil.
Yeah,
his voice.
It's probably Neil's voice that puts me to sleep while I'm shooting, keeps me calm. And then away we go. And then you're transmitting at play stoppages. I've got my computer behind me, and I'm sending images at play stoppages, trying to spin around fast enough to not miss anything on the ice. There's a whole process. And end of the game is when I get the digital cards from the camera in the net and the one on the rafters. And then each of those cameras could have 1,000 or 1,500 images on them. You get through them pretty fast, and then caption, Photoshop, send them, go home, fall asleep real fast.
The most memorable goal that you have shot recently, no doubt, when Alex Ovechkin broke Wayne Gretzky's record. And there is actually a clip of you as you took that shot, because he takes the shot from the other end of the rink, but his celebration comes towards you, and you can be heard saying, "My God, he's coming right at me."
Yeah, great quote. Very embarrassing quote. Usually, at my age, you go, did I say that out loud, or was that just in my head? But I had the ESPN guys following me to do something for a tidbit to open up the playoffs. And that was just the game they picked. So they kind of double dipped and had me doing Ovechkin, and then had enough stuff for opening up the playoffs with it. And yeah, that is in my top 10. It's probably one of my top 3 or 4 this week. It might change next week, but I was more shocked because I was counting on him doing it first or third period at my end of the ice, and sure enough, he surprised me and did it at the other end of the ice.
Bruce, you obviously have been around so long that most of the buildings know you, most of the 32 teams. Is there, and obviously the Islanders, you have a pass to go there anytime you want, but do you still have to call buildings and say, "Hey, I'm coming tonight. Can I get a spot to shoot?"
Actually, being with Getty Images, we have an assignment editor who I work closely with, and I schedule the photographers around the NHL and actually international, and wherever there's hockey being played. I'll set it up with her, and she'll make sure that the teams know that I'm coming, or any of our other photographers are going to specific games. And as our relationship is the photo rights holder with the NHL, Getty Images is entitled to let's call it a better photo position. And that would be the position I choose in each arena, which is what I would call the deep hole position. So it's just south of where the goalie's line hits the boards. And what that enables you to do is not only twist enough to see behind the net, but also twist to see up ice. So that way all the ice is covered. If you get stuck at a side hole, then anything could happen at the other end of the ice, and you could easily miss it.
So when you started, like all of us, shooting normal pictures of family and that, you were on 35 millimeter, and now you're on digital. You were on flash bulbs at one time, and now it's LED lighting, I would think. Can you walk us through the changes that's made in your life to go from having to wait till after a game to develop photos to the way it is now, where you instantly see what you just took?
Yeah. I mean, the key right now is now immediately you know that you missed the shot. You used to have to wait like 3-4 days, process the film to go, oh, so close, missed it. But what a huge change through the years, not only in the evolution of the sport, but the evolution of photography into digital imaging. No dark rooms, no smelly, dangerous chemicals. But the key for me, and it actually was put to me in such an incredible way after Stanley Cup last year or the year before. I put out something it was probably on Instagram that said Stanley Cup is over. Games, the final game, I shot 12,000 images at the final game, and someone chimed in, do you realize that is the equivalent of 330 rolls of 36 exposure film? And I said, that is like one of the best stats ever. And you think, the key one of the key places that number comes in is Stanley Cup final, where guys are skating around with a cup, and you've got 2 camera bodies. Each one has 36 exposures, and that is all. Mm-hmm. And then you have to somehow unload that 36, get another roll in so that the next guy who's carrying the cup, you don't miss him. Now you just fill up a card with a couple of thousand images, and you're good to go. It's not a concern anymore. Big differences from the early days.
Has LED lighting made any impact on what you're doing?
Yeah, quite a bit. Strong lighting in the arenas. Digital cameras have advanced through all the years to be better in lower light. But the light has come, the LED lights in the arenas are crystal clean, daylight balanced, or close enough to beautiful outdoor lighting. And it's also helped in the corners of the arena, which are usually dark in many arenas. Now they're able to move those lights around a little better and tweak a little light in one corner and make it a little brighter so that the corners are equal to the rest of the ice. So it's given us, from the early days of, film that wasn't good in low light to digital cameras that are better in the light that is presented to it. Huge difference in the quality of the images you can get with the better light in the arenas.
Did one of your predecessors, George Kalinsky, and also Marty Brodeur's father, Denny Brodeur, did they have an influence in your career at all or in your life?
Denny Brodeur and David Beer, 2 photographers out of Montreal. I always think, Beer was fabulous in his own right, but Denny was a former goaltender. And you could call him one shot because this guy, he used strobes in the rafters in that building in Montreal. Didn't travel that much, but in Montreal, his strobes were so old-fashioned that you could only shoot one frame every 12 seconds. So you think about it, with the strobes that I use in the buildings, and a couple of the buildings I shoot, including UBS and Prudential Center, it's anywhere between 1 and 2 seconds. And then you're ready. You have enough power back in those strobes, you can push the button again. So you contrast that with available light when you're not using strobes and you can shoot 20 or 30 frames a second versus trying to perfect your timing to do 1 or 2 seconds. Well, Denny Brodeur, you just need to go back to and look at the books that were produced of his images, and everyone is a stunner. And he had to wait 12 seconds between each frame. Yep. And think about it. You shoot that half second too early, and then you sit there and you wait. And the celebration is over. The players are back on the bench, and the next shift is going. So he was a gem of a photographer.
You started out as a fan, as we all did. And now that you have shot reportedly close to 5,400 NHL games and probably 1,000 more elsewhere, including international Olympics, would it actually be possible for you to go to a game and not think about shooting it?
Oh, it's so difficult. It's so difficult. I remember it was just such a classic. I mean, early on in my career, it was probably late 70s. I met this girl. I said, I'd like to bring you to a hockey game. So I didn't work that night, and I brought her to Madison Square Garden. And there was a sponsorship. I think it was Marlboro cigarettes back then. It was some cigarette company, and they gave out these white straw hats. And sure enough, some clown scores a hat trick, and 2,000-3,000 hats come on the ice. I almost committed suicide. I'm sitting up there with this girl, and I'm like, oh my God, I cannot believe that this is like the best photo in hockey history with all these hats on the ice. So yeah, it's difficult to watch. And typically when I'm home, I very rarely watch a game on TV. I'm shooting 4 nights a week usually, and I need a break from that. It also hurts, like I'll watch and I'll go, geez, I hope my photographer got there. And then I'm texting people and pissing them off in the middle while they're shooting, saying, it looked like it was at your end of the ice. Did you get that? So try to give all the photographers that work for us a little bit of space.
Do you have any bucket list items now that you've been in this business, 52 years? Anything with the NHL or any other sports, or maybe stuff even outside of athletics that you still say, I want to get this shot?
Yeah, the bucket list is shooting a game tonight and being alive to shoot a game tomorrow and being alive to shoot the game the next day. There's your bucket list for you. I did my bucket list game last January. This past January was a Hershey Bears teddy bear toss game, which is just incredible. The PR guy, Jesse Liebman there, and the whole gang, they were just terrific to work with. So I'm going back and I'm doing it again this January because, once you do something like that, you go, should have done this, should have done that. Why did you choose this lens? How did you get buried under the bears and couldn't pull yourself out? You got to be faster. Listen, I've kind of segued a little bit. I'm shooting a ton of birds and wildlife. It's a great challenge. People seem to love the pictures and the Instagram feed from that. So it's not a career thing, but it is very fulfilling when you get some beautiful shots. And doing the outdoor stuff, it's warm, which I don't get in the hockey arena. And there's light of all kinds of varieties. The hockey arena is a very flat lit. No shadows unless you create those shadows using those strobes in the rafters. So it's very different feel shooting that stuff and very rewarding when you actually get something colorful and lit well.
Last one for me. And I could tell pretty early on that I was not cut out for your field because I was at the 1992 Barcelona games. And it was a night off, and I was there with the Kodak 8mm or whatever it was, snapping photos and making sure that I was definitely being economical because I think I had either 12 or 24 exposures available to me. And at the end of the women's 100-meter hurdles, Gail Devers was coming directly towards me. She was about to win. I had the camera focused in. She fell, and I dropped the camera down like, did I really see that? And it was at that moment that I realized I was not going to be a photographer. So with that in mind, do you have 1 or 2 pointers for people that are aspiring to get into your industry?
Yeah, it's experience more than anything else, because when I started in 74, 75, I had no idea what I was doing. And yeah, back then it was manual focus as opposed to automatic autofocus, which is a lot easier for people, obviously. But knowledge of the sport and experience. So don't get depressed after you see what you shot in your first, 3rd, 30th, 100th game, because the more you shoot, the better you get at it. And you really need to be a little bit of a student of the game. Individual players learn their propensities. Do they, which team scales the puck in against another team and which ones look to carry the puck across the blue line. it's interesting when you see plays develop and you try to figure out the coach's strategy and you try to pick up on it, so you better idea on where to focus, depending on which team is in control at any given moment in the game.
Bruce, going into the area of stupid questions, I get asked a lot of them, and I'm going to ask you a couple that I get asked. People that are fans, and today's fans, can't imagine that you don't have a team you cheer for, because their life is about cheering for a particular team. And so then they'll ask me, well, who do you cheer for? And I'll say, nobody. I watch the league and I just try to evaluate the league. So my stupid question, A, to you is, do you still have a team that you, in your heart, you hope wins?
Wow. Going to get me in so much trouble here. Listen, I have a soft spot in my heart for Islanders, Rangers, Devils, and Flyers, because I was team photographer with all of them at some point. Some of those teams the same years with all four. I'm a Long Islander. I love the region. I love the people. The team has been terrific for me. And quite honestly, all my years at the Rangers, wow, they just treated me like gold. Any photo opportunity that I saw, I would talk to the PR people, and I said, I remember John Rosasco was the PR guy for a while, and and he would come to me and he'd say, "What do you want to do?" And said, "I want to lay down on the ground with the New York Rangers, jump over the lip of the boards, and skate out onto the ice." And he goes, "Hang on a second." And he brings in a security guard, and he goes, "Vinny's going to watch you and be with you to make sure nobody bothers you. Go get the shot you want." And so, that kind of support and trust with the Rangers. And, the Devils were great in their own way as well for me. But the key is, the real answer here is, the only way that you are successful at this craft is to take emotion out of it. And when people ask me, who I root for, I root that no players get hurt. It's a fast game. It's a physical game. And I'm more concerned about safety of the players than I am about anything else. So, yeah, short answer, long answer. There's no rooting in this sport. You take the emotion out, otherwise you're not going to be successful.
Speaking of that, of players getting hurt and you being on top of everything that's going on the ice on a nightly basis, was there a time, or how many times have you ever been in the position where it does emotionally affect you that the guy got hurt that bad, and that you've just watched something that's really not good, and it takes your mind off of what you're doing because you're so worried about that player?
Yeah. I think that kind of situation is where the photojournalism and being a photojournalist kicks in, and you have to separate the emotion from that. The bloody scenes aren't my thing. I know that our company had asked me at one point, they had an opening to shoot a UFC match, and I go, "It's just not my thing, man. I cannot watch one guy beating another guy to a bloody pulp. I just can't see it. I can't shoot it. Not going to happen." And I feel the same way at hockey. You just grin, and you get past it because your job is to document what you see, not through rose-colored glasses, but this is what's been presented to you. And whether it's hockey or it's a news event like Hurricane Sandy and other things that I've shot in the past that are on the for the news desk. You just can't be emotionally involved. You just shoot what's in front of you.
Last stupid question. Have you got one?
Listen,
if you had
there are no stupid questions. There's just stupid podcast hosts. Just so you know, I read that somewhere.
Well, that's my partner. You've nailed it.
Back at you,
Bruce. Is there one photo? If you had to do this, you were told you either do this or we're going to kill you. What is your favorite Bruce Bennett photo, or your signature photo, or the one? Is there one that you could ever say, yes, this one of this little bird in the tree, or this one of Ovechkin scoring this goal, or Gretzky and Lemieux?
Yeah. Two answers. First one is my collection of images of E.J. Raddick going into or out of bathrooms at every major NHL event. That's been something that I've sought after. I just missed him in Madison Square Garden last week, and I was so upset with myself because I haven't added to that collection in a long time. But he's got to know I'm still keeping an eye on him. But yeah, the short answer is it used to be Bobby Nystrom, black and white of him scoring in 1980. As I said, my Long Island thing and my affinity, but with region. But yeah, it is the Ovechkin shot just because it just fell in my lap, and people really responded well to that image. And once again, I can't believe he came right at me. Who knew? So that's it. So it's the Ovechkin shot.
Well, that's great. And you've had such it's hard to believe that we've been together, friends, since 1980, and my career went okay, and yours certainly went okay, and we had a lot of good times together. There was so many. I've thought about it a million times. That's one thing about life, is that you may not see somebody or may not even get to talk to them for a long period of time, but they live in your mind. And I've thought about you and those car rides and all the games we went to so many times.
And you as well. I mean, it was you and Barry Watkins, the PR guy, who brought me into the New York Rangers in 1990. And I'll forever be grateful, because those years with the Rangers, and that my greatest moment in hockey, in 52 years of hockey, my greatest moment was being on a float, going down the Canyon of Heroes on Broadway, on the float with Mike Keenan and Cullen Campbell and Steve Laumer, and Dick Todd, I think, was on there as well, and a couple of other guys. And no greater experience, and wouldn't happen without you guys bringing me into that organization in 1990. So thank you for that. Is that what you wanted me to say? Because that's what you wrote out for me. Yeah. I don't think I missed anything.
I think you read it properly.
Okay. Close one.
Oh, God. Thanks, Bruce, for doing this. Thanks for coming on. It's great. This is, you congratulations on a great life and a great career, and it still keeps going. And hopefully we'll get you back here in 50 more years.
Oh, man. Wow, that's going to be an ugly scene, that's for sure. But thanks, guys. It's been great being with you. And again, love the podcast. I wish more people were listening. I don't know your numbers, but I talk it up. I just love it. It's even the shitty jokes, Neil. I mean, I still get through them, and I think the fans will react well to them, or they can just turn it off if they need to.
Happy New Year, Bruce.
Thanks, guys. You too. Enjoy.
Thank you.
The man is literally a living legend in his own right. Bruce Bennett, as we said, over 5,300, maybe 5,400 games. I believe he's actually lost count of how many games that he has done. And reportedly over 2.5 million exposures, which these are numbers you can't even wrap your head around.
No, but the thing about Bruce is that his passion is what's made him a great person in his field. Hall of Fame worthy for sure. He got into the U.S. Hockey Hall of Fame earlier this month and has been in the New York State Hockey Hall of Fame and is worthy of all of that. You're seeing and talking to, like you said, there's no better words than a living legend, a guy that's done this for so many years, so passionately, taken so many fantastic images that it's really amazing. He's at top of his field.
What truly impressed me was listening to him go through his preparation before the start of the game, which goes up to and including setting up the cameras, but also knowing how certain teams play and whether they dump the puck in, whether they wrap the puck around. And besides the mechanical piece of the preparation. It's also really understanding the game. And as he said, he is a student of the game in his own way.
Well, and he also researches the game that night for the players that might be hitting milestones in any particular way so that he can capture that. So he studies everything to make sure he's on top of an image that he might be able to catch. And so that's what makes him so special. That's what makes him at the top of his field in photography.
I just love the way he spoke of the evolution of not only being able to expose photos, the transition to digital, the LED lighting, and quite frankly, a great final guest on NHL Wraparound in 2025.
It really is, and it is a great way to wrap up 2025 with a Hall of Fame hockey person again, this time in the photography field.
A few more items before we wrap up this show. The Toronto Maple Leafs made a change behind their bench. No, it is not head coach Craig Berube, who just got a vote of confidence from general manager Brad Treliving, but it was Mark Savard, who is running the power play, and PP is last in the NHL, 13%. They went 0 for 2 in the first game without Savard there. Obviously, this is going to be run by the remaining coaches on the staff. It was a 6-3 win for the Toronto Maple Leafs over the Pittsburgh Penguins, who have won only once in their last 10 games. But with Austin Matthews, William Nylander, John Tavares, Matthew Nyes, and either Morgan Riley or Oliver Ekman-Larsson on your points, the loss of Mitch Marner can just not be that severe to the point that the club is at 13%.
And you know what? It all falls back on the players at the end of the day. I mean, you can fire Mark Savard because he was a great power play player, and so they brought him in to do that. It either falls on the head coach, who's not getting the message through whoever he's trying to deliver the message through, or it falls on the players. Because I know that Roger Nielsen had the best power play every year. He was our coach. I know that the year that Mike Keenan coached, he never once practiced the power play, and we were number one in the league. So I think you've got to have a good power play with those guys on it, with nobody coaching. So I know that Brad Treliving decided that the power play coach had to go. But have we gotten to the point where we're like football, where we've got an offensive coach, a defensive coordinator, an offensive this, a defensive that? Like, come on, guys, it's hockey.
A couple of bright notes for the Maple Leafs in this game. The aforementioned Nylander had a 4-point game, and as we all know, he has been in and out of the doghouse of Berube all season long. Scores 2 goals, first in 12 games. And Max Domi, an end-to-end rush for the eventual game-winning goal. It was his first goal in 23 games, and he beats Brett Kulak and then Stu Skinner, the 2 players that the Penguins have recently acquired from the Edmonton Oilers.
Yeah, and that trade for Tristan Jarry that the Oilers and the Penguins pulled off, Skinner going to Pittsburgh and Domi having a real good game for them. I mean, Max is a guy with a lot of talent, sometimes doesn't think the game too well. And last night, a brilliant end-to-end rush for his team.
I don't think we're planning the parade route just yet, though, in Toronto.
Not yet. I mean, Yonge Street will probably be anointed when the time comes.
So speaking of the Oilers, and we also have another game to talk about, let's look at a couple of games that there was not exactly holiday cheer exchanged between two teams. The Oilers beat the Flames on Tuesday, 5-1. Let me know if you've heard these numbers before. Leon Draisaitl, 3 goals, his 9th career hat trick. Connor McDavid, 5 assists, 3-point game for Zach Hyman. And Connor Ingram, in his second game with the Oilers, stops 19 shots. He's 2-0 on the season. And so the Oilers starting to rev this engine up a little bit. Believe it or not, they hit the break, tied with Vegas and Anaheim with 44 points atop the Pacific Division, although they have played more games than either the Golden Knights or the Ducks.
That game was in Edmonton last night, and of course they'll be followed up by a game back in Calgary where you can expect the same kind of shenanigans to go on. It's been going on for decades between these two teams. This is the Alberta's version of the Islanders and the Rangers. I mean, these two teams are huge rivals, and we've seen this before.
You mean 10 misconducts in the last 7 seconds of the game?
That's when the referee just says, look, I'm getting rid of all of you. I'm just tossing you all out of here. You're all out of the game. And he just said, I've had enough. So, but that's how they take control of the game.
A clearly preventive measure at that point. In Boston, Montreal Canadiens score 4 times in the third period. We had mentioned the 3 clubs that had 5-goal periods on Tuesday. Montreal breaks a 2-2 tie, puts up the 4th spot. This is the first win for Montreal and Boston in almost 6 years. And this was a game that the Bruins weren't overly thrilled with the officiating because they were shorthanded 7 times in this game and 3 times within a short period at the start of the third period. They had a goal disallowed at the end of the second. And then the eventual game-winning goal by Zach Bolduc was challenged for goalie interference. The Bruins lose the challenge and wind up surrendering power play goals after that to Cole Caulfield and Nick Suzuki, both on 5-on-3 situations. So the Bruins were kind of ornery at this point, and this game was kind of edgy at the end as well.
Which is typical of a team that's pissed off that they haven't gotten any breaks from the officials, and they know that Montreal should never be beating them in Boston. They haven't for 6 years. And there again is another great rivalry, Boston and Montreal. It is a super rivalry. It's been that way for many years.
There was something about the date December 23rd, though, that always seems to get the Bruins' ire up a little bit because it was 46 years ago on that date with the infamous shoe incident in Madison Square Garden with a game against the Rangers where Mike Milbury removed the shoe of a patron and beat him with it. And of course, the way it's always been portrayed is that Milbury pounded this guy like 100 times, and I think he only hit him once.
Yeah, I mean, you can watch it on video. It's on YouTube. Terry O'Reilly jumping up into the crowd, and then a bunch of the other Bruin players got up there too. And I could see that happening at Madison Square Garden in those days when the glass was short enough that you could climb over it, that you can't get over it anymore. And you'd have to get through the netting as well, I think, for about where that incident happened.
Well, there is quite a backstory to this also that kind of led to the frustration that led to this incident. The Rangers led this game 3-1 going into the third period. Bruins got a couple of power play goals at the start of the third, and Stan Jonathan actually got the game-winning goal. But you remember the referee, Greg Medill?
Yeah, I do.
Medill didn't have the best reputation as a referee, and actually was dismissed after his 12th season in the league in 1983. But in this one, the Rangers were looking to get a couple of calls back after being shorthanded early in the third. And Medill was telling Captain Dave Maloney that the Swedish players that the Rangers prized at that time, Anders Hedberg and Ulf Nielsen, were faking going down. And so the Rangers obviously didn't get any calls in that period. But at the end of the game, with the score 4-3, Phil Esposito had a break-in on Jerry Cheevers and was stopped, literally as the final buzzer went off. And then the scrum moved towards the boards. And that's really what prompted this. The Ranger frustration boiling over, and that of the fans as well, which caused them to attack some of the Bruins.
And, you know, don't forget that Phil Esposito and Jerry Cheevers were friends from the Boston Bruins in their glory days. So him going in on Cheevers and Cheevers making the save was a big deal. And of course, the Bruins and the Rangers are big rivals also back then. Phil Esposito, the trade for Jean Rattel with the Rangers, that famous trade. So things were happening. Just to put a bow on it, this is December of 1979. The Rangers have just gone to the final and been eliminated by Montreal to win the Stanley Cup. And upcoming, although little did they know at this time, would be the Islanders' first of 4 Stanley Cups that would come in 1980.
Was that a Christmas bow?
That is a Christmas bow.
Short personnel update. Thank goodness. With the break coming up, Chris Tanev, defenseman for the Maple Leafs, returned after missing 23 games with an upper body injury. Remember, he had that awkward collision with Matvei Michkov of the Flyers on November 1st. For the Seattle Kraken, defenseman Brandon Montour is out 4 weeks with hand surgery. He was injured during a scrum with Colorado on December the 16th. Zach Bogosian, defenseman for Minnesota, returned Tuesday against Nashville after missing 4 games with a lower body injury. And we had already mentioned earlier that Tom Wilson and Rasmus Sandin did not play in the loss against the Rangers, but they did get back Ryan Leonard after missing 7 games with shoulder and facial injuries on that hit absorbed by Jacob Trouba in Anaheim on December 5th. And right away, he gets back into the lineup and he contributes with a pair of assists.
Yeah, he's an important guy. He's coming into his own now. He's an aggressive player. He's not very big, but he's got pretty good skill set.
Our website is NHLWraparound.com. Our complete history of podcasts is available. And in our blog section, New York Centric, the latest from Patrick Hoffman on the struggles and the disappointment of Rangers forward Alexis Lafreniere, a former number 1 pick. He did get the game-winning goal in Washington, but nonetheless, Neil, has way underperformed literally his entire career. That goal was only the 100th of his career.
Yeah, for a number 1 overall, he hasn't been spectacular, but that's sometimes you just don't get that right year that you get the number 1 pick and you come out with just an NHL player. And it seems like the Rangers, when they got him, he didn't have the fanfare of the Berards and the, Macklin Celebrinis and these people. So, but even at that, he has been disappointing, especially this year.
Also on our website, there's Neil's Nuggets, where he does occasional analysis on certain trends around the NHL. And Smith's Picks. You have a .606 winning percentage heading into the break. And I can honestly say you are going to be perfect each of the next 3 nights.
I am. Now, did you look at my picks the next 3 nights?
Well, there are none to be made.
Well, see, you didn't even bother reading the blog because they're up there. The picks are posted. But for everybody, please go. This is really important that you look at today's Smith's Picks.
I'm sure there's going to be some comedic commentary in there.
No. You just take a look at it. I think it will help everybody during the Christmas holidays or in the holiday season.
It's what we call a tease. That'll wrap up our show for today. First, a special thanks to renowned photographer Bruce Bennett for joining us, and to Getty Images for giving us permission to use some of Bruce's photos.
Thanks to the listeners out there. Reach us individually at Neil@NHLWraparound.com or Vic@NHLWraparound.com. Send us an email. Tell us what you like. Tell us what you don't like. All of our podcasts can be heard on Apple Podcast, Amazon, iHeartRadio, Spotify, YouTube. And please leave a review. And on YouTube, especially, subscribe. We just need a couple hundred more subscribers to get to a benchmark level.
And a final note here. We had some recent numbers from Spotify that came in that kind of reflects where this podcast has gone in the last year. Audience increase of 25%, new audience increase of 604%, a 57% increase in our followers, 52% increase in listening time, and we are a top 10 preference for many of our listeners. And interestingly, some of the people that listen to us also listen to Taylor Swift, Not Bad Company, Morgan Wallen, and Zach Bryan.
Wow. I think you sound a lot like Taylor Swift. I think that's the reason that people are doing that. That voice you have is so Swifty.
Yeah. And as soon as I start cashing checks like Taylor Swift, I'll really be singing like her. This will be our last wraparound for the year, as we had mentioned earlier, because the schedule is a little bit wonky in the middle of next week with some afternoon games. So we will be back with short shifts next Monday and Friday, and then we'll get back into our regular cadence once we get into the first week of the new year. So, Neil, once again, Merry Christmas. You're a terrific partner and have had such a great time doing this all year, and really for the 2 years we've been together.
No, it's been fantastic, and it's a match made in heaven and a lucky one. And I will say that it's a passion of both of ours, and we love doing it, and we hope that there's folks out there that love it just as much as we do.
And to those listeners, if you're traveling, travel safe. But regardless, have a wonderful holiday this season. Take care.
Thanks for joining us on the NHL Wraparound Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to stay up to date on all the NHL action.